January 4th, 2022, a cold winter night in Detroit. 17-year-old Zion Foster had just finished her shift at Detroit Wing Company and was ready to unwind. Like many teenagers, Zion had a rebellious streak. She'd run away before, usually to her grandmother's house when tensions with her mother Sierra ran high. But this night felt different. Zion asked her mother for permission to go out, and she was honest about her plans. She wanted to spend time with her favorite cousin, Jaylin Brazier. Sierra agreed. Jaylin was family, someone she trusted.
What's going on, Mr. Brazier?
Yes, sir.
What's your name, ma'am? Okay. You guys know Zion?
Yes.
So,
last time I spoke to Zion, like see right now with his wife.
He told me he hadn't seen or been in contact with her for 3 years, which is impossible when you were in my driveway and gave me a hug.
At 10:42 p.m., doorbell camera footage captured a white sedan pulling into their East Point driveway. Zion walked out, got in the car, and disappeared into the night. Her last text message came at 12:59 a.m. to her boyfriend Vertez. OMW. On my way. But Zion never made it home. When Vertez couldn't reach her the next morning, panic set in. At 8:53 a.m. he sent a desperate message. "Are you alive? This is the worst thing ever." Sierra immediately reached out to Jaylin, expecting him to know where her daughter was. His response was shocking. He claimed he hadn't seen or spoken to Zion in years. Not months, years. He suggested Zion had been lying about spending time with him, using his house as a cover story for meeting someone else nearby. But Sierra knew better. She had personally watched Jaylin pick up her daughter multiple times. She had hugged him in their driveway. His claim of not seeing Zion for 3 years was impossible. Something was terribly wrong, and the person Zion trusted most, her favorite cousin, was lying about the last night anyone saw her alive. The investigation was about to uncover a web of deception that would destroy a family and reveal the darkest betrayal imaginable. When Sierra Milton approached East Point Police about her missing daughter, she encountered frustrating indifference. Officers dismissed Zion as just another runaway. After all, she had a history of leaving home before. But Sierra refused to give up. She organized search parties, posted flyers, and held rallies, desperately seeking answers about her daughter's whereabouts. Meanwhile, investigators finally decided to question Jaylin Brazier. The 23-year-old father of 2 welcomed officers into his Detroit home, appearing cooperative and concerned. He maintained his story. He hadn't seen Zion in nearly a year, not since May 2021. He even offered to show police his Ring camera footage from the night in question, but technology would soon expose his lies. Cell phone data revealed that Zion's phone had pinged just across the street from Jaylin's house at 11:24 p.m., exactly where her boyfriend's screenshot had placed her. More damning evidence came from neighborhood doorbell cameras. At 11:15 p.m. on January 4th, clear footage showed Jaylin's white sedan pulling into his driveway. 2 figures emerged and walked into the house, a male and a female. Jaylin had driven his girlfriend Katrina to work at 11 p.m. for her midnight shift at a manufacturing plant. The second person entering his house couldn't have been Katrina. It was Zion. The cameras captured something else disturbing. At 1:41 a.m., Jaylin's car pulled out of the driveway, then backed in so the trunk faced the backyard. After several minutes, the car drove away, returning less than 10 minutes later. This suspicious activity occurred just after Zion's phone went offline at 1:15 a.m. When cadaver dogs were brought to search Jaylin's vehicle, they gave a clear indication at the trunk, despite no physical evidence being visible. The pieces of the puzzle were forming a horrifying picture, and Jaylin's web of lies was about to unravel completely. On January 19, 2022, faced with overwhelming evidence, Jaylin Brazier finally agreed to speak with detectives. Accompanied by a lawyer friend, he was ready to tell what he claimed was the truth about that January night. Jaylin admitted he had lied. Yes, He had picked up Zion from her home and brought her to his house. After putting his 2 young children to bed, he joined Zion in the living room where they smoked marijuana and talked about her improving relationship with her mother, her boyfriend, and her plans for the future. According to Jaylin, Zion became very sleepy from the marijuana. Her head tilted back as if she was taking a nap on the couch. He went to get a drink, and when he returned 15 to 20 minutes later, something was terribly wrong. Zion wasn't responding. He checked her pulse. It was faint, then non-existent. His 17-year-old cousin had simply died on his couch. But instead of calling 911, Jaylin made a decision that would haunt him forever. Panicking and fearing he would be blamed for her death, he put Zion's body in his car trunk and drove to Highland Park. There, he disposed of her body in a dumpster, treating her like trash, as Sierra would later tearfully describe. Cell phone data corroborated parts of his story. His phone showed he was at the Highland Park dumpster location at exactly 1:48 a.m., staying for 6 minutes before returning home. But inconsistencies immediately emerged in his account. The next day, Jaylin changed his story. Now he claimed they had taken acid together, LSD that must have caused Zion's heart to stop. When detectives pressed him about his actions while under the influence, hoping to elicit a murder confession, Jaylin maintained he had done nothing to harm his cousin. His stories kept evolving, but one thing remained constant. He insisted Zion's death was not his fault. While Jaylin sat in jail for lying to police, investigators were working around the clock to uncover the truth behind Zion's disappearance. What they found in the digital realm would shock even seasoned detectives and reveal the true nature of the relationship between cousin and victim. Despite performing a factory reset on his phone just 2 days after Zion's disappearance, a move that screamed guilty conscience, Jaylin had made a crucial mistake. Cloud storage had automatically backed up his search history, preserving a digital trail of his most incriminating thoughts. On January 7th, 3 days after disposing of Zion's body, Jaylin's Google searches told a chilling story of a man consumed with covering his tracks. "Are garbage trucks also compactors?" he typed into his phone. Minutes later, "What is the force of a garbage truck compactor?" These weren't casual questions. They were the desperate searches of someone terrified that evidence of his crime might resurface. But investigators found something even more disturbing buried in his browsing history. For months before Zion's death, Jaylin had been obsessively searching for pornographic content containing specific keywords: cousin and step-cousin. The search results he clicked on weren't just inappropriate, they were violent and graphic, painting a picture of twisted fantasies involving family members. The breakthrough came when Sierra handed over Zion's old cell phone to investigators. What they found on that device would rewrite the entire narrative of their relationship. Over 4,000 text messages between Zion and Jaylin, spanning several months, revealed a systematic pattern of grooming that prosecutors would later call pervasive and predatory. The messages started innocently enough, family check-ins, casual conversations, but they gradually became more invasive, more controlling. Jaylin routinely invited Zion to his house specifically when his girlfriend was away at work. "Come through when Katrina's gone" became a recurring theme in their conversations. When Zion had run away from home previously, Jaylin didn't just offer support. He offered to hide her in his basement, away from her family's search efforts. He positioned himself as her protector, her escape route, her secret keeper. Classic grooming behavior designed to isolate a victim and create dependency. The messages revealed Jaylin's manipulation tactics in disturbing detail. He would complement Zion's intelligence and appearance, building her confidence while simultaneously undermining her other relationships. He told her that people thought they looked like a couple, planting seeds of romantic confusion in a teenager's mind. Most disturbing were his claims that his girlfriend Katrina was jealous of Zion. He created a false narrative of adult women competing for his attention, positioning 17-year-old Zion as a rival rather than a child. In some messages, he bragged about his ability to attract women, even calling himself a god, the grandiose delusions of a predator grooming his next victim. Phone records revealed another chilling detail. In the days following Zion's disappearance, While her family desperately searched and posted missing person flyers, Jaylin was methodically researching how to avoid detection. His searches included, "How do police get your phone history?" and "How do you know if police are watching you?" These digital breadcrumbs painted an unmistakable picture. A 23-year-old man who had spent months grooming his teenage cousin, fantasizing about inappropriate relationships with family members, and then desperately trying to cover his tracks when those fantasies turned lethal. The evidence was building an airtight case that would ultimately put Jaylin behind bars for the rest of his life. After serving just over 9 months for lying to police, Jaylin Brazier was released early, through a special boot camp program. But his freedom was short-lived. On June 13, 2023, he was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and tampering with evidence in Zion's death. The trial that followed in May 2024 would last 2 weeks and feature testimony from 32 witnesses. Prosecutors painted a picture of a predatory older cousin who had been grooming Zion for years before finally acting on his impulses. The timeline of January 4th became crucial. Jaylin had learned that his girlfriend Katrina was pregnant with their 3rd child that very day. When he dropped her off at work, she was already feeling sick from the pregnancy. Throughout the night, she texted repeatedly, asking to come home early, complaining of nausea and feeling hot and cold. Jaylin's response was cold. "You can make it, baby." He was too busy with Zion to help his pregnant girlfriend. When he finally picked up Katrina at nearly 3 a.m., she noticed something disturbing, a deep scratch across his collarbone. He claimed the cat had scratched him, but Katrina thought it odd since their cat had never scratched that deeply before. The defense tried to argue that Zion had died from a seizure disorder, with her boyfriend Vertes testifying that she had mentioned having seizures and taking medication. However, Sierra Milton contradicted this, and extensive medical records showed no history of seizures. A forensic anthropologist testified that the only condition Zion had that could have caused death was asthma. But an asthma attack would look nothing like the peaceful death Jaylin described. Instead of quietly passing out, Zion would have been struggling to breathe, clearly in distress. The prosecution's closing argument was powerful. On a night when Jaylin had an unexplained scratch on his body, Zion entered his house alive and left in the trunk of his car, dead. After hearing 2 weeks of testimony, the jury needed only 30 minutes to reach their verdict. The speed of their deliberation spoke volumes about the strength of the evidence against Jaylin Brazier. Guilty. The word rang out in the Wayne County courtroom as the jury foreman delivered their verdict on both counts, second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. Sierra Milton's body trembled as she heard the decision, overwhelmed with relief that justice had finally been served for her daughter. At sentencing, Jaylin maintained his innocence, claiming Zion was never violated or hurt. But Judge Donald Knapp saw through his continued deception. The judge outlined Jaylin's complete failure to accept responsibility, not just for the murder, but for disposing of Zion's body, lying to police, and causing delays in the investigation through his web of lies. The judge noted how Jaylin had left his 2 young children alone in the house that night, manipulated his family members, and acted with complete disregard for everyone affected by his actions. Judge Knapp concluded that rehabilitation seemed unlikely given Jaylin's pattern of behavior. The sentence was severe, 30 to 90 years for murder, plus an additional 5 to 10 years for tampering with evidence, to be served consecutively. At just 24 years old, Jaylin would likely spend the rest of his life in prison. For Sierra Milton, the verdict brought a measure of peace, though the pain of losing Zion would never fully heal. She was loved, she is loved, she was fought for, and this is the result, Sierra said through tears. For Jaylin, you thought you were smart, you tried to be slick, but the people saw you for what you are. Despite the conviction, one tragic element remains unresolved. After 6 months of searching through tons of garbage at a Macomb County landfill involving over 70 volunteers and law enforcement officers, Zion's body was never found. Her family was denied even the closure of laying her to rest. The case serves as a heartbreaking reminder that sometimes the greatest danger comes from those we trust most. Family members who exploit that trust in the most horrific ways possible.